Tonight, one central Newfoundland town is mourning the tragic loss of a local teenager. That story and
are signs of what he is proposing, Trump-style leadership.
The Premier can call me all the names he wants. That's not going to change what we need to be talking about.
Well, at a big fundraiser, the Premier calls out the opposition leader.
Our funding has remained flat for years and years. Costs have been doing this, and funding has been doing this.
The province's Folk Arts Society says it urgently needs money or it will be forced to shut down.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin tonight in Gander, where the whole community is in mourning this week, reeling from the tragic death of a grade 9 student Monday evening. Here and Now's Troy Turner brings us a story.
Family and friends of Aurora Keats say her smile lit up the room, whether in the gym, the school, or on the softball field. After she was killed in an ATV crash earlier this week, Aurora is being remembered as a cherished friend, a talented athlete, a mentor, and an inspiration to many.
She was a friend to everybody. She showed her love. Didn't matter who you were, what you were. She was there for you, and she was going to stand by. So she's going to be remembered for being that soul that made everyone smile no matter what was happening.
In Gander this week, the gymnastics facility became a place for family and friends to grieve together. Churches opened their doors after hours. Schools doubled as a safe space for kids to talk.
They're not bottling things up. They're not trying to do it by themselves, and they don't have to do it by themselves. They got somebody they know they can lean on in a situation where this comes down, that we can explain it or try to make it a little easier, or if they see us being able to talk about it, they can talk about it.
Tributes have been pouring in all week, highlighting the profound loss felt by the whole community.
She was amazing. It's very rare to find someone that can be that inspirational to adults as well as children, that make that impact, that is always a positive, and it's not something that easy come by. We don't see it in every kid. Most kids are shy away or they're worried about what everyone else is thinking, but she wasn't that kid. She was the one who led the pack.
Carrie Wheaton had known Aurora since she was a child. Her daughter was Aurora's teammate. Wheaton says it's hard to think of life at the club without her.
She was one of my kids. It will definitely be quiet, but we will push for her. There won't be anyone like her. So there won't be shoes to fill for sure. We'll do our best to make her proud. So it's going to be heavy for a while. All these firsts will be rough, but we'll push for her.
On Saturday, hundreds are expected to gather here for a memorial service. Just as they have done for years, Aurora's gymnastics and volleyball teammates will be here by her side. Family, friends, and the community are expected to be here too, to pay their respects, to honor and remember a cherished teen who touched the lives of many and was taken far too soon. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
Okay, to politics now. Andrew Furey hosted his final evening with the Premier fundraiser last night, and he did not hold back when discussing some recent social media posts by the opposition.
Hi folks, I'm Tony Wakeham, leader of the PC party in Newfoundland and Labrador, and here's what you didn't hear in the media this week. First, let's talk about the Liberals and their land deal scandals. They sold land for less than they paid.
Let me speak about facts. The facts of the matter are the taxpayers of this province paid $25,000 an acre for this property, and this Liberal government sold it for $5,000 an acre.
They went out and bought land from their Liberal friends, and then, after they had made the purchase, went out and actually got the land appraised.
And if I may, provide some advice to the leader of the opposition. Be better. The province demands and expects better. Better than childish memes, expects better than Trump-style attacks on the media, calling into question their integrity. Let me tell you, Trump-style ads, Trump-style attacks are signs of what he is proposing, Trump-style leadership. And I can tell you, no one in Newfoundland and Labrador wants that.
Well, meantime, PC leader Tony Wakeham calls Furey's comments disappointing. Wakeham says his party is not trying to emulate U.S. President Donald Trump's style of politics and that their social media posts are about calling out the government's record.
When I think of all of the social media posts that we make thousands. And our messaging is about what can we do to improve the lives of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, calling out the Liberal government on their record. The Premier can call me all the names he wants. That's not going to change what we need to be talking about, which is really the issues that are important to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, during the first week of the House of Assembly's spring sitting, the PCs and the NDP had a chance to press government on those issues, but further debates will have to wait until later this month. The CBC's Jenna Head explains.
Only 7 days into its first 3-week sitting, the House of Assembly is closed. It's a decision the Liberal Party says is normal for this time of year, but the opposition parties disagree, saying there's many moving pieces behind the Liberal Party's decision. Premier Andrew Furey is on the way out. 2 cabinet ministers are backbenched and running to fill his shoes, and other ministers are now holding multiple portfolios to fill the gaps that has created. On top of that, some MHAs are debating moving to the federal stage.
The whole Liberal caucus on the opposite side and the whole Liberal government at the present time seems to be in chaos. They're leaderless. They don't know which direction they're going in.
But the Liberals say the PC party is the one that has missed the mark so far by not asking one question on U.S. tariffs in the House the day they were expected to come into effect. After being questioned on that by reporters, the PCs did ask about tariffs the following day, but tied it back to the sugar tax.
What's really important to the people of this province is the fact that we now have tariffs by the United States. This province will be strong, strategic, smart, calm and precise in our response.
Meanwhile, the NDP pressed the Liberal government on tariffs, cost of living and housing. They say closing the House after only 1 week is too soon, leaving them with little time to ask questions. But party leader Jim Dinn has a guessed what's behind that move.
To interrupt it, I would assume is because of there's a leadership race and there's probably a federal election. That's not business as usual.
For Dinn, that's conducted in the House, and he says debates there are needed now more than ever.
We're in the middle of a tariff war with our neighbour to the south. That's going to have potentially big financial impact on the people of this province.
The House will resume later this month. Main focus then will be debating the budget, which the province says will be presented on March 24th or 25th. Jenna Head, CBC News, St. John's.
Liberal leadership candidate John Abbott has some influential people in his corner, but today he's being wrapped on the knuckles for the stage he chose to reveal that support. Here Now's Terry Roberts has more.
This was a big political lift for John Abbott's campaign. On Wednesday, Abbott strolled into the scrum area just outside the legislature to speak with reporters, flanked by 5 Liberal MHAs, 3 of whom sit in Premier Andrew Furey's cabinet. In a highly politicized moment, the MHAs stepped up to the microphone to swoon over Abbott.
We've got a great candidate here. I'm really excited. And John, if you're successful, I know this province is going to be in great shape.
He's come to Labrador a number of times, and no matter what table we were sitting at, whether it was Nain in the north, whether it was Fortow in the south, I was always really impressed with his knowledge.
I think he's a great man, and I think he will make a good leader.
And he just cuts through the noise and works towards a solution.
It was quite a statement for Abbott's campaign, since he did not have a single MHA supporting him during his unsuccessful 2020 leadership bid. And this was the low-key scene when he announced his candidacy on March 4th in the lobby of Confederation Building. Just a handful of supporters. The other candidate, meanwhile, held a lively political rally to launch his campaign last week. A bevy of MHAs, senior political staffers, and influential organizers have very publicly thrown their support behind Windsor Lake MHA John Hogan. Abbott says he's more about substance than style.
Assuming I'm Premier on May 3rd, you will see a different style of government in that sense, but we'll stay focused.
But this is the parliamentary precinct. There are protocols, and this is not the place for party politics. John Abbott did not have permission to use the House of Assembly area to promote his campaign. And if he asked, he would not have received permission from Speaker Derek Bennett. And now I'm told Abbott can expect a lecture from the Speaker. But if Abbott's approach was to ask forgiveness instead of permission, he got the attention he was looking for with comments like this.
I think John has the knowledge, temperament, and the character to be a great Premier for this province.
Whether a majority of Liberal members agree with that will be revealed on May 3rd. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
To the courts now, where cases are being thrown out because they're taking too long to go to trial. The Provincial Justice Department won't say how often this is happening, but CBC Investigates has been scouring the court dockets for details from recent cases. The CBC's Rob Antle has more on those findings.
It's disheartening knowing that our justice system is flawed. These people have no repercussions of what happened.
Jeremy Mitchell got caught up in an alleged puppy scam a few years back.
It was upsetting. We never did get the dog and out quite a large sum of money.
And he wasn't alone. The Mounties investigated and laid 23 fraud charges, one for each alleged victim.
Right across the island, these people were being targeted.
But here at Provincial Court in St. John's, lawyers for the two accused filed a so-called Jordan application, saying it had taken too long for the case to get to trial. In early January, the Crown called no evidence, and those 23 fraud charges were all withdrawn.
Yeah, I guess their day of justice never came.
CBC has found that the accused in that alleged puppy scam were 2 of 10 people whose cases were recently tossed out because of trial delays, in a period of just a month. 70 new hunters in Labrador had wildlife charges dropped. Impaired charges were also withdrawn against a driver pulled over by the RNC in Conception Bay South back in 2021, after he was seen swerving all over the road and into oncoming traffic. In the Jordan decision nearly a decade ago, the Supreme Court of Canada set timelines for trials to be concluded after charges are filed. 18 months in provincial court, 30 months in Supreme Court. Delays must be justified. It's led to a big shake-up in the justice system. And this week, the Chief Justice of Canada's top court cited a lack of resources which have contributed to missed timelines and cases thrown out.
I think that governments, I think that society should adapt to Jordan and not Jordan adapt to society. In other words, we should make sure that we have the means in Canada to make sure that the trial is held within a reasonable delay and not the other way around.
In this province, the Justice Minister was told in a briefing last fall that the frequency of Jordan applications has greatly diminished over the last number of years. But now, the Justice Department can't or won't provide the data to back up that statement.
Obviously, we want to make evidence-based decisions.
The department wouldn't address what has happened in the past, instead sending a statement that focuses only on the present, calling Jordan applications a snapshot in time. What's not clear is whether officials in the Justice Department have the full picture, whether they aren't tracking cases like this, or whether they are, and just don't want to make that information public. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, it's been a snowy day for parts of the Avalon. That will change as we head through tonight. A ridge of high pressure moves in. It's going to be cold. Perfect viewing conditions for the full moon tonight. It is a full blood moon, and it's a worm moon. So I'm sure that's what you're hearing about. It's called a worm moon because you tend to see more insects around this time of year, which is certainly true. Now, for some parts of the world, as far as the conditions go for tonight, most of us should see the eclipse. That's why it's a blood moon, and I'll get into those details coming up a little later.
Well, a pillar of this province's musical landscape is at risk of collapsing. The Newfoundland and Labrador Folk Arts Society today launched a Save Our Festival campaign, appealing to corporations and the public for donations to help keep it and its annual music event running.
I did a study early on in actually 2023, and I showed the decline of the folk festival over the course since 2019, really. We lost $80,000 that year in 2019. And the costs of this stuff in 2022 were okay. We started to see the increase in 2023 with the inflation. In 2024, some of the costs for the infrastructure, we were actually gobsmacked at how much it was going to be. You know, we are on an island, and anything that's transported in is expensive. And our vendors work with us as much as they can. They're wonderful, but things cost what they cost. And when I read the letter from the Regina Folk Festival, who just shuttered their doors, which broke my heart and gave me like a chest hurt, they said it. And we could have written the same letter. Our funding has remained flat for years and years. So costs have been doing this, and funding has been doing this. And at some point, you run out of reserves. And we were down to $45,000 in reserves in 2023, and that's now gone. So we are operating at zero. Some people say, oh, you tried to go too big by having Emmylou Harris and Steve Earle in. And when I did the numbers for the organization, I put together the financials, and I said, we didn't go big enough. So we ended up losing $104,000 in direct costs. And if we had 3 nights of Emmylou Harris and Steve Earle, we wouldn't be sitting here. But yeah, we are in danger, in severe danger of closing not just the Folk Festival, but the Folk Arts Society as a whole. And nobody wants that.
Well, to sports news now. Playoffs for the province's first women's Junior A Hockey League officially kicked off at the St. John's Mary Brown Centre last night. The newly formed league offers ice time to young women aged 18 to 24 who have aged out of minor hockey, and the players have embraced it.
So this is the first night of our series for the playoffs, so Team Drover versus Team Butler, and I think we're super excited to finally get our playoffs started and to see how night 1 goes with Game 1.
The dressing room's kind of electric right now, and we're just getting ready to get out on the ice and play. The atmosphere here is always great, and it's just very cool to be some of the first people to make this happen.
Feeling pumped, obviously a little bit of nerves, but ready to go. We've been working up towards this all season, basically, so yeah, feeling ready to go, feeling pumped. I graduated in 2023 out of the AAA League, and after that there is nothing else in Newfoundland, there is no other steps, so honestly I kind of thought all I have left is rec hockey, so to have this league come back in, it's definitely filling a void.
Well, my daughter plays with the Eastern Icebreakers U18 team. She's graduating this year, and she's hoping to move into this league next year when she goes to university.
For most of the girls my age, we never did get a chance to play once we finished the minor hockey, so it's so exciting to see this league start up so that people have that thing that they can look forward to possibly go to after minor hockey.
A lot of us played coming up through with each other, and we played against each other, so it's just really nice and awesome to come together and then like battle each other on the ice.
It's actually a really exciting atmosphere that this league has created because all the girls have grown up playing against each other, and now to come together and play on the same teams, playing against people that used to be your teammates, it really creates this electric atmosphere, and it's just, we're kind of just buzzing with how it's going, so it's an exciting time.
I think that they're going to give us a tough game. We just got to get our feet moving and hopefully come out on top.
It affects everyone. So even doctors, if doctors don't have care and education for their young children, how will they work? It affects the health system. It affects everything that you can think about. Because if parents do not have care and education for their children, they have to stay home.
Well, child care advocates in this province say the federal $10 a day program is crucial for many parents and for the economy overall. Time for a look at the weather, and it was quite nice out there today, but you were talking about snow last night, so is that still on the way?
It's here. We've been seeing some snow for a good chunk of the day for parts of the western Avalon. That's the hardest hit areas. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. So we've got that cold front, and it was taking its sweet time moving across the Avalon. These things are notoriously hard to predict because it's a very narrow area of some snow, and it looks like it set up shop really from the Placentia Bay area to the Trinity Bay area for most of the day today. So parts of the western Avalon, like I said, saw most of that snow, but it is starting to move across the Avalon, drift across the Avalon now. But we do have much colder air in place in behind that, especially for the west coast. And temperatures have been dropping for most of the day today. So this is a live look outside, finally starting to see that snow here in the metro area. Temperatures down to about -3. We've been seeing out ahead of this front a lot of light freezing drizzle for most of the day today. But the winds now out of the north-northeast, hence that drop in temperatures, gusting upwards of about 35 kilometers per hour. The visibility down to about 800 meters out there as well. So taking a look at the satellite, you can see the clearing skies in behind this front and that snow finally moving east. It will taper off as we head through the next couple of hours, but starting to see those clearing conditions for parts of the northwest Avalon, and then even southern areas of the Avalon are seeing that clearing as well. Right now, temperatures are down to the minus single digits for most, -9 in Corner Brook, with a wind chill feeling more like -16 right now. And even up across parts of Labrador, minus single digits, but your wind chills -21 right now is what it feels like in Makovic. So we will continue to see this cold air tonight, an Arctic blast. Really, we'll see the potential for some flurries in the west and north, but most of us are sitting under a ridge of high pressure, which is keeping those skies generally clear. Eventually, we will see some clearing skies in the east as well across the Avalon once that front goes. But temperatures tonight are going to be quite chilly. -7 in St. John's, -16 in Grand Falls, Windsor. And the winds are going to stick around. Northwesterlies will be gusting between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. You add in that wind chill, definitely in the minus teens and even -20s up across Labrador. So if you are planning on heading out early tomorrow morning to see the blood moon or the lunar eclipse, the total lunar eclipse, you're definitely going to want to bundle up. And I thought we'd go through this one more time to talk about it. The partial eclipse will start at 2:39 in the morning, half hour earlier in Labrador, and then we'll start to see that total eclipse. This is when the moon will take on that reddish appearance, and that will happen around 4 a.m. and then continue through 5 a.m. And then that eclipse will eventually end. And then by the time we get into about 6 o'clock, a quarter after 6 in the morning, the moon will return to its normal state, being, fairly bright though in the evening or in the morning sky. And we won't see another lunar eclipse, another total lunar eclipse anyway, until about June 26, 2029. So now's your chance. And the clear skies will hopefully let us see that. So like I said, the parts of Lab West, unfortunately, you're going to be seeing some flurries tonight along with some cloud cover. So not great viewing conditions for you. But the rest of the island will see some fairly nice conditions, but again, cold. Now, for the northern Avalon, at least to start for the eclipse, will likely be in partly cloudy skies. But towards the end, hopefully those skies will clear for you just to see that just in time. That snow will work its way through and across Labrador as we head into the afternoon. Most of the day tomorrow across the island will be beautiful. We'll actually see those clouds on the increase into the afternoon, though, with some light snow moving through. And that's pretty much it. Accumulations will likely be somewhere between 2 to 5 centimeters, but we may see some pockets higher, closer to 5 to 10 in some of those higher elevations by the time we get into Friday night. Temperatures tomorrow are going to be returning to more seasonable, even a little bit above, somewhere between -1 and about +3 through the day. A little breezy at times as well. And then Labrador, especially towards the coast, minus single digits. Lab City, though, still hanging on to that cold air. -18 will be your daytime high. I'll get into the long-range forecast coming up a little later.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, with the help of the Education Accord, a document serving as a 10-year roadmap, the provincial government is hoping to transform and modernize Newfoundland and Labrador's education system. The Accord's final report is due at the end of this month, and on CBC Radio's The Signal, 2 of its co-chairs spoke about the future of education in this province.
In a time of an education accord, and with all those voices being looked at things like engagement, what was that follow through like, or do you have any comment on it?
I think that I will say that we were not part of that discussion. That work happened before we arrived, and that we became, found out about the actual release at the same time as the public did.
What does that say to you about the importance of your role if you weren't consulted at all?
I think it speaks to operating in silos. And the need for greater collaboration, more effective communication within government, but also between government, NL schools, community partners. I mean, there are some very strong partnerships in existence, but we definitely need, and this has been a robust theme in all the feedback we've gotten and the discussions we've had, there has to be better communication and developing shared goals to get to where we want to go.
And one of the things, too, when we met with you last, we talked about that interagency communication. So we met with departments, and this has been a very robust public engagement, stakeholder-driven, initiative. So there's many voices here that have come forward, and that's the reason why that I believe it won't be shelved, because all of those people have a stake. All those people have made contribution, and I think this really will be much better for our province.
But just to note too, Adam, that recently the Department of Education has incorporated NL schools as a division. So this is new. So they're integrating. As you know, there are growing pains when new processes are put in place. So it will take some time for them to improve their communication and their operations and their practices as well for the benefit of everyone.
with an election likely right around the corner, the federal Liberals are committing to a 5-year extension of the $10 a day childcare program. This province has signed on to receive $500 million to add to the current 11,000 spaces. Childcare advocates say they're relieved for now. I spoke with Patrice Gordon of the group Childcare Now.
It means that more parents will be able to sign on to avail of this $10 a day childcare, and it also means that the parents that are now receiving $10 a day can continue to receive it. There can be opportunities. We are hoping that with this additional sign-on, that ECEs will reap benefits also, because this will allow them to better be able to satisfy the needs of the early childhood educators. We are advocating for better pay with the wage grid, so we're hoping that the wage grid will be improved. We're also hoping that sick days, mandatory sick days, will now be introduced into the OGP and wage grid.
The timing of this extension is important because we are in an election year. Who knows when the next election is going to be, but the federal election is coming up pretty soon. What does this extension mean in terms of timing and securing this program if there is a change in government?
We actually met with government 2 weeks ago to implore, to ask them make sure that this happens, because if the government changes, we have heard the Conservatives say they're going to put the money in the hands of parents. That is not recommended, because we know what will happen if money goes in the hands of parents. And it will mean that they'll pay more for childcare. We don't want that either. And in an election year, it is good, because we've heard the Prime Minister-elect now, he has mentioned childcare in his speech, and we're very happy about that. It means that that's front of mind for them, and that's very important for us.
The Conservative plan to put money in the hands of parents, what is your concern with that? You say that you know what will happen if that does happen. What is your specific concern with that approach to childcare?
Personally, I look at it, parents have money in their hands. What is going to be more important? You have bills to pay, you have food to buy. What are you going to do with the money that you have in your hands? It's not necessarily going to go in childcare. When you pay the money directly to the childcare operators, you know that space is secure and the child will have childcare.
The provincial government says that there's now 11,200 childcare spaces available, the $10 a day spaces available. The next 5 years, I guess, will create an opportunity to make more spaces available. What is the need? How many more spaces are needed in this province?
I don't know if there's a number that we can give you. We can say there are childcare deserts all over the province. Children are, especially infants, have no care. And we need to increase the spaces. Increasing spaces means we need to increase the workforce. Workforce, again, is just the foundation of solving this problem. But there's a lot of need out there for childcare.
How stressful is it for a parent to try to find a space for their child? And what happens if they get on the wait list and they just don't make it? Then what's the alternative for them?
Parents are going on the wait list as soon as they find out that they're pregnant. And even when the child gets to age 3, there's not a space. So it is really bad. Parents, the wait lists are there, but we have heard parents say that they're on wait lists and they call every day. There is nothing still. The gateway is there that the government has created, which is good, but it still does not solve the problem because the spaces just are not there.
And then if you can't get the $10 a day daycare, then what happens? You need to turn to private childcare?
You go to private or you stay home. And this is what is affecting the economy too, because if you can't go to work, the economy is stagnant. They go to the private daycares, the home cares, or private centers. Sorry. They go out and they pay, people are paying upwards of $50 a day. So you're looking at maybe $500 per week. And if you're going to, when parents look at that, if I'm going to get, when I get my pay, most of it is going to childcare. I may as well stay home. So a lot of people are staying home, and it's affecting women mostly, because the women are the ones that are looking to stay home, to stay with their children.
And you raise a good point that it's not just an individual issue, it's not just a family issue. This is part of the economy. Can you talk about the big picture of childcare and how important it is to have childcare for people so they can be out there working in the economy, especially now?
It affects everyone. So even doctors, if doctors don't have care and education for their young children, how will they work? It affects the health system. It affects everything that you can think about. Because if parents do not have care and education for their children, they have to stay home.
Well, so what are some of the other federal parties saying about the Liberals' $10 a day childcare program? Well, Conservatives haven't said if they'd cut the program, but promised change and flexibility. The NDP says it's pleased to see the $10 a day program extended for 5 years. G7 foreign ministers have begun 2 days of discussions, meeting at a resort north of Quebec City. Overshadowing those discussions, Washington's new foreign policy directions.
There's a saying here in Quebec, on a du pain sur la planche. So we have a lot to do together, and it's true. We have a lot of bread on our plate. We must meet the moment, and it is up to us to do that task. And we should not be daunted by the task. I think we should be working together.
Well, straining that unity, Donald Trump's 51st state barbs, the Canada and EU tariff wars, and the apparent U.S. shift on supporting Ukraine. Jolie says she'll apply constant pressure on the tariff issue at the meetings, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio is under close scrutiny for signs of how much influence he has over U.S. foreign policy. Economists fear Canada is on the road to recession and that it might be a short drive. The CBC's Chris Glover takes this look at what may lie ahead.
There'll be a little disturbance.
Donald Trump is firm his tariffs will not cause a recession.
I don't see it at all.
But business and political leaders are not so sure.
There's an irrational man who's at the head of the world's largest economy, and he's willing, I guess, to sink the entire globe into a recession.
It's a self-made recession by one person.
And economists are watching closely as North American stock markets have been tumbling.
The stock market's typically a leading indicator, and that's not done very well in the last few days.
What are the chances that Canada is going to be in recession this year?
The chances of recession seem pretty high to me.
The technical definition of a recession is 2 quarters of negative growth in a country's GDP, but the C.D. Howe Institute takes more into account, including employment data, product orders, and building permits.
There's a lag to that data. So we very well could find out that that this first quarter was the beginning of a recession.
Canada exports roughly 70% of goods to the States, and each day $2.5 billion USD crosses the border.
There's going to be a readjustment period with supply chains, how connected we are. And so I think it's very likely, if these tariffs are in place, that we're headed for a period of turbulence here.
Economists say there are 3 areas we can control right away. Monetary policy, like the additional interest rate cut we saw from the Bank of Canada. Immediate government policy, like expanding EI, and structural solutions, like removing provincial trade barriers and finding new international markets.
You're going to need all 3. Hopefully that will help with our dependence on our exports to the U.S.
How can we recession-proof ourselves in the middle of this economic moment?
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, Canadians have been hit by 3 pretty significant negative economic shocks over the past 5 years.
Those 3 economic shocks: job losses from COVID, high prices with inflation, and high interest rates. And just like with them, the advice in a recession is to insulate your finances.
Right now, if you're in a relatively good position, reduce as much as possible your debt.
In the past 20 years, C.D. Howe says we've dealt with 2 recessions, the U.S. housing crash in 2008 and the start of the COVID pandemic, causing a recession that C.D. Howe says only lasted for March and April of 2020.
It was a self-imposed shutdown, right?
Okay.
So what's different, this was worrying this time around, is that big bump is unlikely to happen unless the tariffs are sort of pulled away right away. If the tariffs are kind of permanent, yes, they might be one-off changes to the price level, but they're going to have knock-on effects. Okay. So I don't suspect we'll get that big rebound.
And with Trump saying he wants tariffs to be permanent, that rebound could take months before financial markets and trade markets rebound with it.
And that was the CBC's Chris Glover reporting. Well, Justin Trudeau's time as Canada's Prime Minister is coming to a close, and Mark Carney is preparing to be sworn in soon, and so is his new cabinet. Ashley Burke has that story.
Behind closed doors, Justin Trudeau's wrapping up his last full day in office. The Prime Minister posting his farewell online, titled One Last Thing.
I'm proud to have served a country full of people who stand up for what's right, rise to every occasion, and always have each other's backs when it matters most.
His departing message, one of Canadian pride.
This may be my last day here in this office, but I will always be boldly and unapologetically Canadian.
After more than 9 years in power, Trudeau will head to Rideau Hall tomorrow and resign. Then his successor, Mark Carney, and his cabinet will be sworn in.
This is a group of people that need to be ready to face the threats that we are facing from the United States on the trade front.
Sources say after he won the Liberals' leadership race on Sunday, Carney's been planning a much leaner cabinet, a team of 15 to 20 ministers laser focused on fighting the trade war and this promise.
Change that builds the strongest economy in the G7.
Sources say these 3 ministers handling Canada's response to the trade war are among those expected to be part of Carney's cabinet.
Will be his prerogative to tell us who will be a part of his next cabinet.
Sources tell Radio Canada Stephen Guilbeault will be moved to a new role in cabinet, but he wouldn't say today.
I have served Canadians as their Minister of Environment and Climate Change, which has certainly been the privilege of a lifetime for me.
Mark Carney's transition team is currently planning what his first few days as Prime Minister will look like. Sources say he's expected to trigger an election sometime this month, sending Canadians to the poll at the end of April or early May to decide if he should be the one to lead this country in a time of turmoil. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Hi everybody, I'm Jane Adey, host of Land and Sea. Coming up this weekend, a brand new story, and this is the last in our 60th season on the air. This week's story is all about small town hockey and small town generosity.
The 10th annual Winter Classic hockey event in Islamorte is a day away from the adult games, but the kids in the community get in on the action too. Preparations continue to make sure the rinks are just right for the 200 or so other players who'll take to the ice.
Get her wet, buddy.
And while all that's going on outside, there's more work going on inside.
We got the beef lifted to cut up.
Every player registered will get a pea soup lunch to warm them up. For those who live here all year long, like Steve LaFrenz, the event brings excitement and raises spirits.
Oh, put this shotgun down now. I love everybody coming home, as seeing lots of family and friends and people that you haven't seen in a while. Everybody's together for a full weekend. So we play hockey together, we eat together. Then we're all at the bar together. So it's a full weekend where everybody's always together.
That's a story we've called Home for Hockey. So tune in for that this Sunday at 11:30. That's 11 o'clock in most of Labrador. If you happen to miss it on Sunday, watch on Monday right after Here and Now, or you can always find our shows online on CBC Gem or on CBC Newfoundland and Labrador's YouTube channel. We'll see you Sunday for Home for Hockey.
All right, time for a look at the long-range forecast. And you were talking earlier about the lunar eclipse tomorrow morning. So that's pretty exciting if you want to get up that early.
Yeah, if you're the early bird gets the worm.
Yep. So yeah, that's you'd have to get up at, what was it? 3:34.
The eclipse, between 4 and 5 o'clock is when the eclipse is, the total eclipse. So the moon will appear a little red, but then, by 6 o'clock it's all over, so.
Okay, and so then what's in store for us? We're looking ahead to the weekend now.
We are, and I kept hinting at a warm-up towards the end of the forecast. Unfortunately, the goalpost keeps moving. Let's take a look at what's going on as far as the weather goes as we head into Saturday. So unfortunately, Saturday is going to be on the cooler side across the board. We're looking at another ridge of high pressure moving in from the north, and that is going to keep the temperatures, like I said, on the cool side. The start of the day looks nice. Clouds will be generally on the increase, though, as we head into the afternoon, as a little bit of a disturbance moves through. And that will eventually bring the potential for some flurries for the west coast of the island. Overall, like I said, cooler temperatures, minus single digits for the majority of the island, with the exception of the northern peninsula. You're into the minus double digits, and then somewhere between minus 8 and minus 14 across the big land through your Saturday. Now, as we head into Sunday, this is when our next system moves through. We will see a warm front move in first, and then temperatures will warm up. Most of us will see the mild temperatures into the afternoon and evening, even across parts of Lab West, where you can potentially even see a few showers in the forecast as well. Most of this will start as a little bit of snow, and then as those temperatures warm up, we'll see that transition to some cloudy periods and then some potentially showers again in the evening. So daytime highs for everywhere across the island, with the exception of the northern peninsula, will sit between 3 and 5 degrees. Northern peninsula minus single digits. That's the story for the coast of Labrador as well. You'll hover around there for Happy Valley Goose Bay, and then Lab West, you get to see your daytime highs around +4 into the afternoon. Then the real warm-up comes. Looks like Monday, Tuesday, temperatures will sit in the double digits, although cloudy Monday, Tuesday some rain, and then our overnight lows will sit in the single digits as well. So above zero. So it's certainly going to, if there's any snow left, it'll likely melt. Central Newfoundland will see that as well, but temperatures are going to dip for you Tuesday, so we could see that change back over to snow. Same thing for Western Newfoundland by the time we get into Tuesday. But yeah, it's going to be a fairly mild couple of days. And then for Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures hovering near or even a little bit above zero to start next week, and then clearing skies for Tuesday. And then for Western Labrador, some showers in the morning on Monday, staying above zero, then dropping back down below zero for your Tuesday. Our weather photo of the day, taken in St. Shots. A lovely wintry scene there.
Beautiful.
Beautiful blue sky there. Thank you so much to Lorraine for that. If you have any weather photos, you can send them to nophotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, love that. And love that we're getting double-digit temperatures on Monday and Tuesday here in the east.
Fake spring, as they call it.
Yeah. I wonder, getting to the end of March, if we're going to see another storm.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see.
All right. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.